This is the Edwards Dairy Farm. David Edwards, the owner, has been with the bank for years, but things haven't been so good lately. I met David a few months ago when he submitted his annual accounts. It wasn't good news. The revenues from milk production were under pressure, and with rising costs, David hasn't made a profit for some time. David's company has a small overdraft with us, 50k, but the assessment of the last accounts and David's predictions for the future did not show that it could be serviced fully. Much of it looks like hardcore debt, and it's my job today to see if he has any proposals for a payment. My boss John asked me to come here today as part of my banking education. Making loans is all well and good, he said, but getting the money back with interest is really what good lending is about. Excuse me, I'm looking for Mr. Edwards.
Are you Adam Strong from the bank?
Yes.
Dad said he was expecting a visit today. I'm Becky Edwards.
Hi, Becky. Is your dad about?
He was up by the top fields earlier. Let's start there. This is the milking parlour. Dad upgraded it 5 years ago. Now we can milk the herd in half the time with fewer workers. It also reduces stress for the beasts. Our ladies, as Dad calls them. He says that happy cows give better milk.
And how often are the cows milked?
Twice a day, 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Since I've been back home, I get to share the delights of the 5 a.m. alarm call.
Oh, you've been away?
Yes, at uni. My first degree was in agricultural management. 4 years, including a year-long placement with the Cheese Cooperative in Melton Mowbray, home of Stilton. Then I did a master's in business. It's always been my intention to follow in the family business, so I thought a business degree would be a good idea.
And where did you go to uni?
The first degree was at Nottingham Uni, and the master's at Leicester.
Oh, you're staying local then?
Yes, but I've only lived back home for a year, since I started the master's. This land is really good for dairy farming. The quality of the grass and the frequent rain means that we don't have to feed the beasts too much dry feed. That helps keep milk quality up.
How many acres do you farm here?
About 150 acres in all, but we only have the beasts on 50 acres at a time. Then we rotate to give the grass time to replenish itself. In the summer, it's a race against time to get the hay in for the winter.
Have you always owned this much land?
We don't own it, we rent it. The farmhouse and buildings are ours, but the rest of the acreage belongs to the landlord, Sir Robert Wallace. He was an equerry to the royal family until he retired. His family have huge holdings of land in this part of the Midlands.
How easily can you expand or reduce the acreage that you use?
Quite easily. We have an excellent relationship with Sir Robert, and we review our land use every couple of years.
I understand the farm is organic now. Has that made a difference?
Oh yes. Dad followed some advice from one of my uni lecturers and went organic 3 years ago. It took 2 years to rid the farm of pesticides, but we finally got the ACOS badge, the kite mark from the Advisory Committee of Organic Standards.
And has that had an impact on milk quality as well?
Some impact, yes. We had hoped it would have more of an impact on milk prices too, but that never really works out for us. Oh, there's Dad. Dad!
Ah, good to see you again, Adam.
Good to see you again, David. Becky's been giving me a tour of the farm.
She's a good girl, is Becky. Looks after her old dad.
No need to pile it on, Dad. I've already said I'm staying to make a go of it.
Of course you have, my love. Adam doesn't need to hear our emotional blackmail.
Dad!
Becky was telling me about the acreage. How many beasts do you have on the farm?
115 in total. That's 90 cows and 25 heifers. All born and bred right here.
That's quite rare for a herd to be bred that local. Dad built the herd up over 20 years, selectively breeding the best milkers. Luckily, we escaped foot and mouth in 2001. That helped the herd stay together.
If I understand it correctly then, the heifers are too young to milk at the moment.
Yes.
And the other 90 can be milked.
Not quite. During the spring and summer, about 20 cows are in calf at any one time. They don't give much milk. Once they've calved, however, the yield rise.
And what are the yields like?
We get around 30 litres a day from each beast. That's above the average for the UK, and all down to the quality of the grass. And the modern milking parlour.
John said you would call. His tone sounded serious, and it's only 6 months since I saw you last. Is everything okay? Actually, I'd like Becky to join us if that's okay. She's been doing some homework and has had some very interesting ideas.
Well, that's absolutely fine with me.
Shall we?
Well, there I was, assuming that a loss-making farm would be run down, that the farmer wouldn't be on top of his game. And yet, here's a picture of good practice, careful management, a successful herd. Let's see whether they have answers for my financial questions. Well, I'm very impressed with how scientific this business is. You seem to have your finger on the pulse very well.
Oh, we do our best. Some science and lots of experience. For example, we have to breed very selectively, so we use AI, artificial insemination. It's more expensive per head than using our own bull, but far more reliable.
Dad finally sold our bull Roger in 2007. He was a good bull, but became rather selective himself.
Yeah.
David, you asked before if everything was okay, but I'm sure you already realised that with the last set of accounts and the difficulty in reducing the overdraft, it's not good news for any of us.
You're correct, of course. Things are getting more and more difficult every year.
We are under constant pressure to keep costs down. At least we can control most of these. The organic thing means more grass and less chemicals. On balance, that's cheaper, as long as rents don't go up.
And what other costs have you kept down?
Well, wages have come down since the new milking equipment came in. We use one full-time herdsman on myself. Becky helps out during the busy times now that she's finished her studies. We use part-time labour in the late summer to help collect the hay. It really is making hay while the sun shines. Too much rain and it can rot in the fields and then it won't last through the winter.
So what is the source of the pressure to keep the costs down?
The supermarkets.
Since the Milk Marketing Board was abolished in the 1990s, farm gate prices for milk have been subject to market forces. More recently, this has meant the buying power of the big supermarket chains.
2 years ago, we managed to get 27 pence a litre. Now the best we can get, even with the organic label, is 24p.
And to go by your accounts, it costs considerably more than 24p a litre to produce.
Correct again. Lots of local farms have gone bust or else diversified into tourism, sheep and the such like. Old Billy Williams hanged himself. Still, at least he's not in debt anymore.
I'm beginning to wonder if this business can ever be profitable. Things are run very lean here, and both David and Becky seem to have a good grasp of where the problems lie. Just a couple more questions about the accounts to probe, to see if all the savings that can be made have been made. There's an old business saying, turnover is vanity, profit, sanity, but cash is king.
I've heard that one. Margins are one thing, but we have been feeling the pinch with cash flow. Things are just getting tighter and tighter.
Well, I've studied the farm accounts, and I can see that there appear to be some debts that have not been collected.
That'll be from the local shops we supply with organic milk. There used to be a premium on organic milk before the recession, so we started to sell some of our organic milk to the local shops direct, instead of putting it all through the supermarket contracts. We managed to get 2 to 3 pence a litre above the contract price. But then, of course, you have to collect the money.
And how confident are you that this will all be collected?
I'm putting effort into that question myself. We grant 30 days credit to the shops. About half of the debts owed are between 30 and 60 days and 10% over 60 days. I'm pretty confident that the 30 to 60 day stuff will come in, but the £3,000 to £4,000 that is over 60 days are due to 3 separate shops going bust. We've heard from the administrators recently and can only really expect a small return, possibly 20 pence in the pound. We'll write off the debt in the current year.
At the same time, our suppliers are squeezing us too. We have money outstanding to 2 large feed suppliers and to our vet. The suppliers are having a thin time themselves and they cut our credit period by half over a year ago.
And the banks see the knock-on effect of that in the overdraft as a permanent level of debt that is never wiped out as funds come into the account.
Well, I'm well aware of it. I'll have to be very careful when I'm writing cheques that there's enough in the account to meet them. At least cattle prices are holding up. We do get some cash income from stock sales.
But I thought you kept the calves on the farm to replenish the herd.
Only the ones we can milk. There's no room for sentiment in farming. We sell all bull calves and about half of the heifers that are born. We also sell all beasts that are past their best. After 5 or 6 years of milking, the yield starts to drop. so it's off to the slaughterhouse.
Right, and how much do the cattle fetch?
Oh, it's around £2,000 for a cow with some years left to milk. That reduces down to £1,000 for the older beasts. The same for heifers, as they will be able to be milked within a year or so. Bull calves fetch very little.
Ah, Adam, I can see the cogs working inside your head. With 90 cows and 25 heifers, your floating charge must be worth around £200,000?
Well, you got me there, Becky. Did you do credit appraisal as part of your degree?
Yes, and historic cost accounting. That's why the value of the herd is not really reflected in the accounts.
Well, this seems like a good opportunity to let them know that the bank wants some repayment of the overdraft. It might mean selling some cows, but that would have a negative effect on the herd and the ability to generate income. The message I bring from the bank today is that we really need some proposals to reduce the size of the overdraft. Yes, our security cover is good, but none of us want it to come to that. How can we support the business going forward and reduce the debt burden?
Cheese.
Cheese?
We stop selling milk to the supermarkets and sell it to ourselves to make cheese.
Becky's been working on a new venture, a new direction, ever since she got back from university. Go on, my love. Tell Adam your plan.
Well, it really comes from an appraisal of the situation we're in. Our big issues are revenues and low margins, both of which result from the dominance of the supermarkets as milk buyers. Cheese prices are less dominated by the supermarkets, and since cheese lasts a long time, there's a chance of exporting and widening our markets.
And does your placement in Melton contribute to this?
Yes, it does. We are in the geographic area for Stilton cheese and would need accreditation to call our cheese Stilton, but even without it, we can produce blue cheese using organic milk and achieve gross margins of 75% and net margins close to 20%.
Well, that is a considerable turnaround in fortunes. How long will the transformation take?
Well, Becky's worked it all out. It should take between 6 months from now before the first cheese is ready for market. During that time, we have to keep cash flowing in from milk sales. Then we can reduce the herd down to a working level for cheese manufacture.
We'd only need a herd of 50 plus followers to produce good volumes of cheese. That means less feed, less rent, and less labour for milking.
And around 80,000 as 40 beasts go to market?
Yes, eventually, but we'll need all of that plus more to invest in the cheese making equipment, and that's where Becky's been very clever.
The estimates we've received indicate that we'll need 150,000 to invest in the cheese making equipment. The Stilton Cooperative will help us with know-how.
So a loan for 70,000 will make up the difference?
Partly, yes. We don't want to end up with a company burdened with debt, so part of the transformation will both reduce the bank overdraft and the loan from the family too.
So where does the money come from for this?
I told you Becky's been clever.
I've managed to get an equity injection from the landlord, or his family trust to be precise. They'll inject £50,000 for a 25% shareholding. We've always had a good relationship with the Wallace family, and they'll be keen to invest in a local venture. They'll be happy with a modest dividend for a few years, providing that the business thrives and their shares grow in value.
The final £20,000 comes from selling some of the milking equipment. With a smaller herd, we won't need such a big milking parlour, and the stuff's pretty new.
Well, you've given me quite a lot to think about. You'll raise 220,000 in all, use 150,000 for the cheese making equipment and refurbishment, and then have 70,000 to reduce the overdraft and the family loan.
That's right. I'll be working on the cheese side, with Dad looking after the herd. Dad's not getting any younger, and this way the business is more sustainable.
Less than that getting any younger, young lady. I'm still up before you in the morning and to bed after you at night.
I've put some projections together and copied the commitment letter from the Wallace Family Trust. The rest of the project's summarised in here.
Well, you seem to have thought of everything. It's quite novel asking the bank to lend more when it was my task to get the borrowing reduced.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, there's a lot to think about, and I'll probably need to have another chat, perhaps over the phone, to get some more details.
Call any time, Adam, or just come round. You know where we are.
Well, thanks very much for the tea.
Pleasure.
And the farming lesson. I'll see you soon. Hi, John. I've just come away from the Edwards place. Not quite what we expected.
Oh, in what way?
Well, David's daughter, Becky, has been doing some planning to turn the farm into a cheese-making factory. I've got the proposals on paper and they seem to make sense.
Key here is risk. When businesses change their core skills to do something different, there's higher risk, more chance of things going wrong. We've got to help them weigh that additional risk with the expected rewards. It may look high risk for a while, but the business could be stronger afterwards.
Oh, so it's not a complete non-starter.
Oh no. Let's see what their projections look like and how that affects the bank's position in the longer term. Shall we meet at the end of the week when you've got something worked out?
Okay, boss. You leave it to me. Well, it all looked like a bad news day and ends up with a new proposal. David seemed quite confident, not as confident as Becky mind, that this would transform the business. John's right, however. We must look at the risk and the ability the two of them have to carry this through. Well, you're giving me quite a lot to think about. You'll use... what is it?
You'll raise 220,000 in all.
That's right. I'll be working on the cheese side, with Dad looking after the herd.
Okay, let's just do that line again.
Cheese.
It's
Yeah.
rolling.
We'd only need a herd of 50 plus followers to produce good volumes of cheese. That means less feed, less land rent.
Okay, let's hold it there. We're still rolling, please.
This means less land rent. Oh, I can't do
That's
that.
fine. We'll pick it up from there again.
Relax, all right. Actually, I'd like Becky to join us if that's okay.
Yes, but I've only lived back home for a year since I started the master's degree. Try not to squint. This is the milking parlour. Dad upgraded it 5 years ago. Now we can milk the